All right, let's talk about Buccaneers first round pick Calijah Kancey, who was, banged up to start the season, but we've seen a decent amount of playtime from him so far. So I figured let's get into some film and let's talk about how he's played this season. Real quick, if you look at his Pro Football Focus grades, which I like to look at especially for defensive linemen, because at the end of the day, you're going to have wins and losses. A lot of times I want to know how consistently are you getting wins and losses, and you see right here a huge disparity in terms of his run defense grade and his pass rush grade. His run defense grade is abysmal, 32.8. I'm surprised that's not worse than football. There's only 3 guys who are worse than him, according to PFF. Meanwhile, the pass rush grade is actively good. And again, for a 22-year-old interior defensive lineman who's already undersized, you expect to take a year or two to fully figure out how the NFL works. So the fact that he's pass rushing at that kind of level right away is very impressive. Obviously, the run defense isn't good. That's not a statistic you want. But again, this isn't necessarily measuring how good or bad you are. It's measuring how often do you win and how often do you lose, which usually those are one and the same, but not always. So let's watch the film, and given those stats, let's now use them. Don't ignore them, but let's also try to figure out what the context is for Kancey. Like, first, let's start off with a play like this. What's going to happen here is this is going to be a unique play. I mean, this is a Todd Bowles special, right? Say what you want about Todd Bowles, but definitely one of the more creative defensive coordinators in the league. So Kancey is the edge rusher on this play. He's playing the, edge, but he's going to shift over and eventually go towards the guard anyway. He's going to essentially become an interior defensive lineman in a second. And then Vita Vea, the other guy who's right next to him, he's going to end up becoming the edge rusher. So, kind of a weird, the twist itself, having 2 guys essentially swap positions post-snap, that's something that you see happen relatively frequently. But doing it with 2 interior defensive linemen, that's the clever wrinkle that Bowles has on it. Also worth mentioning, Kancey is getting chipped on this play. There's help, meaning that a player is going to, run into him, kind of block him a little bit before running his route. So right off the bat, you're going to see that right here, Kancey does get, knocked out of the way a little bit, and you have a guard who is picking this up. Tough situation for Kancey. It is. You got slowed down. Guard has time to read this play. Ideally, in these types of scenarios, you hope to potentially get a straight shot towards the quarterback, right? Maybe no one's covering the middle of the field offensively for the Colts, but here, no. Guard is reading it, is going to try and get in position to block Kancey. As you see, he gets over and is in an okay position. This is going to come down to, does Kancey have the strength to disrupt this play? That's what you want to see if you're Tampa Bay. You don't need a sack here. You want one. But again, there's only so much one player can do. Can you at least disrupt the play? And the answer is going to be, yeah, he does disrupt it. Doesn't quite get the sack. I would still say that, I think the guard and Kancey both did their job on that one. They both kind of a good matchup, in my opinion. Both, had their moments throughout. But as a whole, to me, this is a positive play from Calijah Kancey. It's not the, Aaron Donald type plays he was making in college. But again, you just want to start to see some wins. Going over here, you would see some of those Aaron Donald type of plays, however, like this one, so it's going to be, it's actually a play action kind of set up as though it's a running play, but you're going to have a one-on-one matchup against the Indianapolis Colts left guard. That's what's happening here. Watch this swim move. You're going to see Kancey pull off to immediately get past him. And again, Gardner Minshew's running toward the bottom of the screen, so it really doesn't matter that much. Not much he could do on this play. But in my opinion, still an incredibly good play by Calijah Kancey. And again, the hope is you see him do this with some consistency now. The hope is in a couple of years, you'll see him do it with a lot of consistency. Is that how it always works? No, of course not. But it's what you hope to see have happen. But now let's go over to the run defense. Can the run defense get better? Well, sure it can. Again, I do expect for a defensive lineman to see some jump. I don't know what it would be, but whatever your PFF grade is, maybe 5-10 points higher from year 1 to year 2. Like, that's kind of what you expect typically. That would still put him as a very bad run defender, PFF grade wise. This is an example of a running play. You have, the left guard going to be blocking him one-on-one. That is Quentin Nelson, the guard for the Colts, who, when he first came into the league, looked like he might be like a, first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think he's quite been that guy the past few years, but it's still a very good offensive lineman. So watch what Quentin Nelson is going to do against Kancey. as you see, Kancey generates some pressure, but really Nelson is able to get Kancey towards the top of the screen to try and clear out a running lane towards the bottom of the screen. Now, for Tampa Bay, it's okay. They actually have that hole covered. So this is kind of the thing about run defense, and part of why I liked this fit more than anything is Kancey wasn't a great run defender in college either, and, the hope was just, are you going to get completely taken out of the play? Right here, he's not doing a great job. Like, this is definitely a loss, but he hasn't been completely taken out of the play. To the point where when the halfback, Jonathan Taylor gets into his direction, he is able to make a tackle. That wasn't Kancey who made that play. It wasn't. It was the linebacker who blitzed in and was able to, make it happen that way. He's the guy who made the play. Kancey just happened to be there. But that's the thing with Tampa Bay, right? They have incredible run defenders all across their team. So for Kancey, he can kind of let them do that job, and hopefully he can just be the good pass rusher, which he already is. And I thought this play was very good. Being able to see the field is a really big, important advantage in football. Yes, even if you're an interior defensive lineman, like this play, for example, you're going to have, the other interior defensive lineman's dropping back into coverage. Kancey's going to be the only guy on the inside rushing the passer. 3-man rush. And as you see when this play begins, because of that, you have all 3 interior offensive linemen blocking him. Okay, not really expecting him to be able to generate pressure, and he's not going to generate pressure. He's not going to get through all these guys if that's what you were hoping to see if you're a Tampa Bay fan. No, that's not what's going to happen, but he is going to recognize the situation. Watch as when Minshew gets outside the pocket, Kancey also notices it, gets over, and is able to deflect that pass, and if Minshew wasn't throwing there, would have gotten probably a sack on that play. So good awareness there by Calijah Kancey to notice something like that. Really good stuff. Again, the numbers are the numbers, right? And I do believe in PFF grades for this stuff, and what I've seen on tape, I also agree with. I would say that sometimes you see a bad run defender and it's like they're just getting blocked way out of the play and don't look like they belong on an NFL field. I don't really see that with Kancey. I basically just see him like always losing kind of thing, like not, being able to be disruptive in the run game, which is, it's still a factor, right? It still is. It still does matter. You can't rely on Vita Vea to, win his matchup every single time, although he's going to win it a good chunk of the time, let's be honest. But there also is plenty to be excited about, and quite frankly, I don't know if I can think of a comparison with Calijah Kancey. I really can't. I mean, who else has had this kind of start to their career? It's hard to think of a player. I mean, I was curious about, Aaron Donald, a player who obviously there's a lot of comparisons to because they both have almost the exact same height and weight, went to the same college, very similar play style, all of that stuff. Aaron Donald's always been a good run defender, though. So, really, with the exception of these past couple years where his run defense has fallen off a bit, even in his rookie year, he was a great run defender. So, not really a fair comparison there. But in the pass rush, Aaron Donald was only about, again, using PFF grades, only about 7 points higher in that regard year 1, and then year 2 he jumped up to being one of the best interior pass rushers we've ever seen and hasn't looked back. Again, not saying that that's what Calijah Kancey is going to do, obviously, because comparing anyone to Aaron Donald is insane, right? But I do think that regardless of how much value there ends up being in Calijah Kancey, I think there's always going to be some, because his pass rush is already effective. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from ya. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.